Welcome back to the Decarb Connect podcast. And today I'm really pleased to be joined by Kroeker, who's Emerging Technology Program Manager for NW Natural. And for those of you who don't know, that's a gas utility on the west coast of the United States. And we're going to be talking about how NW is kind of tackling the opportunities around a hydrogen business model. And rather than say any more than that, actually, Chris, I'm just going to hand over to you. Why don't you give us a bit of a feel for how you've arrived at this point in time, and we'll jump off from there.
Sure. Thanks, Alex. I really appreciate you inviting me to be here today. Looking forward to the conversation. So Northwest Natural, as you mentioned, small gas utility out here in Portland, Oregon. We serve about 2.5 million customers, been around since 1859. So been here quite a while. And yeah, so we're actively trying to decarbonize our energy supply. And we can get into the details in a little bit, but a big part of that is hydrogen, and we started really getting in depth into hydrogen a few years ago, and that's kind of where I joined the renewables section of our company. Previous to that, I had been working in our natural gas vehicle section, and really things just started heating up around hydrogen, and we wanted to get a little bit more focus on that. So I joined the renewables group. I think it's been 2 years now. I've been at the company only 4 years, so a newbie. And yeah, we've been working on hydrogen ever since.
Okay, so that's a useful scene setter. So let's just add to that a little bit. So you mentioned that NW's been looking for sort of different ways to decarbonize both, I suppose, services to clients, but also its own supply and resources. So what has been this experience of hydrogen so far? Where are we at in terms of NW's experience in that market?
Yeah, so kind of early days, but yet it feels like we've done a few significant things. So ultimately, as we look forward to that energy decarbonization portfolio, we're going to have a mixture of gases. We're going to have renewable natural gas coming into our main backbone system, which we're actively pursuing and procuring today. We're also going to have methanated hydrogen coming on that's 100% compatible with our system, but we're also going to have pure hydrogen blended in. And we also feel that we're going to have 100% hydrogen pipelines, either repurposed or new, to customers that need or can use that 100% hydrogen source. So heavy duty trucking, marine, aviation, industry, and things like that. So what we're doing right now is we're preparing for that blending, and we're preparing for that 100% world. It's a few years off for that 100%, but we're still nonetheless preparing for it. So to date, we've been working with about a 5% blended gas and introducing that into some of our test buildings, and which really simulate the environment our appliances operate under, and just double checking to make sure that there is no difference with this blend. All of our standard operating procedures work just fine, and there's no different leakages and things like that. And so far that testing has been pretty benign. I mean, we really haven't found anything. It's kind of the most boring testing we've done to date. So, but nonetheless, we need to do it. And so we're building on that. So we've kind of learned all we can learn from that. And we're now introducing a 5 to up to 20% blend in one of our buildings. And that'll be more of a long-term test, probably about a year, and continued learnings on that. And then finally, we have a pilot project where we're going to be blending about 5% hydrogen into one of our communities. So slowly building up our knowledge level, and we'll be serving probably around 2,000 customers once that's all done and built. So it's pretty exciting.
I'm always interested. Here in the UK, we have a project up in the north of England where they're testing ever more increasing blends and ultimately kind of just hydrogen into the home. And it's always interesting to hear that it's going into those sort of domestic environments. It'll be interesting to see what additional kind of messaging and all kinds of programs will need to come up around that. But anyway, today we're here really to talk more about the industrial landscape. And when you and I checked in ahead of this podcast, you used this really interesting phrase. You said, it's kind of an important part of our strategy to help keep industrials in the state and decarbonising economically. Tell me a bit about some of the pressures that are, in play within the state. That means this isn't just about clean energy. This is also about an economic proposition for the state.
Yeah, economics and jobs, quite frankly. So without an overall arching federal climate policy and carbon policy, businesses have this ability to basically move around where it's the lowest cost to operate. And so if there's no uniform framework to put a cost on carbon. We have the situation here where we have West Coast states that very much want to decarbonize, which have businesses that span not only North America, but also the globe. So when they look at their specific factories and operations here, they look at, Portland, Oregon, and they say, well, what's going on there? Well, our costs are increasing. Well, let's move that factory over to Louisiana. We don't have anything hindering us for carbon costs there. Let's just move. And so, at the end of the day, we're seeing movements towards penalizing these companies for emitting carbon, and they're basically saying, fine, we'll move. And so you still have the same emissions when they move. So we haven't really accomplished anything there. And all the jobs and economic benefits from these companies have also gone with them. So you've now shot yourself in the foot there. So we have this real conundrum where we'd love to decarbonize, but we want to keep those businesses here. How do we do that? And so we're working with local governments to figure out a way to accomplish both at the same time. And we're looking at hydrogen to get us there.
So let's then look at hydrogen and this interest that there is in kind of getting this right infrastructure in place. But where are you seeing an interest in hydrogen coming from in terms of industrial or kind of more corporate clients? And what kind of uses are you starting to hear people have an interest in?
Yeah, so it depends. I wouldn't say it's any one specific industry. It depends on largely what the strategy of the company is, from what their ESG goals are, and what the kind of pressures are on them. So we're finding companies that use a lot of gas in urban environments really want to decarbonize and are raising their hand saying, hey, what have you got for us? We'd like to move away from high carbon source energy. What can I do to replace that? So we have a steel manufacturer here in downtown, or oddly enough, Portland. We have some glass manufacturers. We have a very large transit or authority that's looking at moving to hydrogen away from other, diesel and battery electric. And we also have a port that's kind of looking at the future around aviation. And so all of these businesses together, they're actually clustered quite nicely, are kind of saying, hey, what have you got for us? Can you help us decarbonize? And so we're working with them to figure out a way to give them a lot of hydrogen very, very efficiently. And we're looking at blue hydrogen options nearby that we can put into place to give them that low cost energy with low emissions. So that's to answer your question, it's a few different types of businesses.
What are you sensing that you as an organization will need to construct to kind of support this type of hydrogen economy? And where do you see this as being things where you'll need maybe other collaborators or other people to step in, versus where you think it's something that NW can sort of own or pursue certain parts of that strategy?
The solution for hydrogen, it's going to be whatever low cost source we can get. Right now, that's blue hydrogen. And we as a gas utility have no experience in manufacturing blue hydrogen plants. There are some experts out there, and clearly we're going to need to partner with them to not only construct, operate, and possibly own these blue hydrogen production assets, but also to find out where we can sequester the carbon that's associated with them. So we know that we have very favorable geology here in the state of Oregon. Some of it's in saline formations that are deep underneath, the city of Portland. We have some favorable geology out in the Northwest, where we have our own natural gas storage operations, which will likely be very well suited to carbon sequestration. But we're going to need some partnerships to find out exactly where those storage reservoirs are, and maybe take on a little bit of that exploration risk that a gas utility, we're not known for taking on a whole lot of risk. So we're likely going to need to partner with entities who do have an appetite for taking on risk in exchange for upside on the back end. And we're also going to need to partner with our local governments to, on the permitting side, that can really kill a project if the permitting just takes forever. And it really isn't a wanted thing in the community, right? So we're going to need to partner with our local governments as well. So hydrogen plants and also hydrogen pipelines, underground storage, there's a lot of partnerships to come.
You mentioned that blue hydrogen is your source. Is there future potential for green? Do you have ready resources and kind of renewables that could lend itself to that?
Absolutely, yeah. Green is going to be a big part of our portfolio in the future. Right now, the cost of electricity this is too high to basically support any large production of green hydrogen. But as you look just a few years in the future, we think there's going to be ample supply of low-cost electricity to enable green as well as blue. I mean, wherever it comes from, as long as it's low carbon, low cost, we want to get it into the pipeline and deliver that energy to customers. And we've over the last couple of years, we've really looked hard to find low-cost electricity. In the Pacific Northwest, it's been harder to find. You think that in the abundance of hydroelectric that we have, we would be able to find low-cost electricity, not quite low enough to enable these green projects today. As you get more wind and solar penetration, I think we are going to get there. But right now, by far, the lowest cost is blue. Now, we are also looking at projects in the Midwest. Basically up and down the wind belt, you have Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas. And there we are finding low enough cost electricity to enable green projects. And we are pursuing those projects there. And under one of our mechanisms that we can buy gas, low cost gas and low carbon gas throughout North America called Senate Bill 98, we are looking at funding those projects as well. So
stepping back to blue hydrogen then, tell me a little more. So it's a new kind of production method for you as a utility. How are you approaching it? When we talked before the podcast, you were explaining about the kind of exploration and storage issues again. So maybe let's just unpick that a little bit more. How are you managing that right now?
Sure. So we have a bit of geological experience. Like I mentioned, we have gas storage assets up in our mist area. We store about 20 billion cubic feet of natural gas there. And we do know our way around doing that kind of thing. But the exploration side here in near Portland is a little bit tougher. It really can be a lot of very expensive to start drilling holes and doing this seismic analysis. And you kind of don't know when that expense is going to end, right? And so it's really hard to go after spending a whole lot of money as a gas utility, again, averse to risk, and really sign up for that kind of exploration piece. But we know that we need to do it. We've tried to get other partners to date to help us out with that, and some of these larger companies that have much more experience in this exploration side are spending more of their time in other areas of the country where it's a little bit easier. So depleted oil wells and gas wells are obviously known entities and probably a lot easier to go sequester carbon there. So we're finding that we're going out on our own a little bit and maybe trying to frame that risk and see if we can't do some of our own work to find exactly where the sequestration reservoirs are, and maybe do some of the development ourselves. Really going out there out on the limb as a gas utility. I mean, we've never done this kind of work before, this exploration work, and it's all kind of new for us.
So is that through partners, or is that where you're bringing resource in-house to do that?
Yeah, we're looking at bringing on some consultants to help us with that work. In conjunction with our knowledge, we're going to, we need to expand our abilities a little bit. But yeah, partnering with people who have done that before. And once we find that sequestration reservoir, I mean, then I think it's going to be pretty straightforward in getting partners lined up to fund a blue hydrogen plant and to start putting hydrogen pipelines in the ground and repurposing lines. It's just that uncertainty around exactly where you put the carbon. It's really what we're trying to get around.
Yeah, the other side of this that we would be mad not to address is that there are plenty of naysayers when it comes to blue hydrogen, and a lot of fiery discussion around that, I guess, in many countries at the moment. So if we take the kind of the main criticisms or the main question marks as how you make it safe, like how you make sure the actual sequestration is safe, but also how it's permanent, what are you, how are you guys sort of thinking through those particular arguments? Because part of this is the engineering piece, but part of this is also about the communication and having a good, clear, open discussion about it, isn't it?
Yeah, there's no sense doing blue hydrogen if we do it wrong, and it ends up, being unsafe or creating more emissions than, let's say just combusting natural gas. I don't think there's anyone in the industry that wants to go down that path. You're absolutely right. We need to do it safely and we need to do it right. And so on the safety part, as you go through the Class 6 well that the EPA has for sequestration, there's pretty rigid requirements in proving that whatever you put in the ground is going to stay in the ground. And that process is pretty robust, and that kind of work has been done before. It's been done safely, and a lot of people don't realize that we have pockets and CO2 underground throughout the Earth's crust. I mean, it's there all the time, and it doesn't seem to be coming out in pockets all over the place, right? So we know that we can do this safely. There's other examples throughout the world. Equinor has done a lot of sequestration. There's a sequestration plant in Saskatchewan in Canada that's been working very well for years. And so we know we can do this. We know we have the technology, but right, we need to continue to have a good safety track, record there. And then we also need to make sure that there's aren't any leakages from this, from a methane perspective. Upstream, methane emissions need to be addressed, and we need to do it right at the end of the day.
And then in the actual business model around blue hydrogen, obviously, storage is one option. Are you also looking at CO2 reuse? What's your thinking around that at the moment?
Yeah, we haven't gone down the reuse path very much. We just right now is just about sequestration and just keeping it there. But obviously, if there's something that it becomes useful for, we have it there available for use.
And then a last question for you, Chris. Really, we frame this is one part of the renewables business for NW. Just out of interest, what else is going on in that business unit? What else are you looking at?
Yeah, we've been exploring renewable natural gas quite a bit. Actually, we've been signing contracts and we've been developing projects. We've been entering into offtake agreements. Through that Senate Bill 98 mechanism I mentioned earlier, we're able to go purchase higher cost gas on behalf of our customers, which is something that we weren't able to do before. So typically a gas utility needs to buy the least cost, least risk energy source for their customers. And so going to buy renewable natural gas has in the past been largely not possible. So we're able to buy by 2050, upwards of 30% renewable natural gas through this mechanism. And we've been seeking investment projects to develop, as well as to offtake agreements throughout North America for our customers. So to date, we have about enough volume for about 2% of our customers, just in 1 year. We think that's pretty good. If you look at how long it took for the solar and wind to actually get to that level, it was much longer. And so we've been moving pretty quickly, and it's been pretty exciting on the renewable natural gas portion. So we're also looking to develop renewable natural gas assets in our region. So looking at wastewater treatment plants, we're looking at dairies and any source available that we can convert into renewable natural gas, we're looking at. So that's a big piece of what the renewables group is working on today, in addition to hydrogen.
Really interesting to hear a different perspective, certainly for us in our podcast on hydrogen. Often we're looking at it purely from the end use, and when an industrial starts to look at it for trial projects. But I think interesting to understand the range of thought processes and the phases in development that it actually takes for a utility to be able to offer that. So thanks for talking us through that.
My pleasure.
Many thanks for listening to the Decarb Connect podcast. We work with clients across the industrial sectors, specifically those who are tasked with decarbonising the most energy intensive products and materials that we use every day. If you have an interest in learning more about either our members network, our reports, or our event series, do get in touch with us at decarbconnect.com. Or if you'd like to take part in the podcast, email me, Alex, at ac@decarbconnect.com. Thanks for listening.